What's up everybody, JJ Shankles and Chance the Napper here. Wanted to start this video off with a little poll. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the new logo. I've been thinking about putting a new logo on the channel, maybe rebranding it, changing it from Goat Toaster 9 just to JJ Shankles. So Chance has been working hard on the logo. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Today I wanted to do a video comparing two mice that I've used for a very long time. They're the Logitech MX Master mice. This is the MX2 and MX3. I used the MX2 for probably about 6 months, and then I bought the MX3, and I've used this one for another probably 6 months coming up now. I would use one at work and then one at home, and now that we're working from home, I'm using one and the fiance is using the other one. So they're both getting a lot of use still. And I wanted to do a little bit of a comparison because I had that question when I was shopping for these mice. I didn't know the difference between the 2 and the 1 or 2 and 3. I haven't used the MX1, so I can't compare that one versus these two, but I can compare these two. There's pros and cons to both of it. The short form of the review is they're both amazing mice. I would buy whichever one you can get for a bit cheaper. If price is at all a factor and this one's a lot cheaper, go for that one. But if noise is a factor, this one is the one to go for. Now, there are a couple interesting design choices they made moving from the MX2 to the MX3. I like a lot of the design of the MX2 better than the MX3, but the scroll wheel is worlds above the MX2. This one is such a loud scroll wheel. And so when you're scrolling, it sounds like that. You can press this button, it will lock it, and it'll be a ratchet design. If you scroll quickly, it will unlock and keep spinning, and you can lock it down. Press that button and it will just unlock the mouse. Press the button again and it locks down to ratchet. But again, if you flick it, it will unlock the mouse and it will freely spin. This one on the other side is quiet. The entire thing, whether it's ratcheting, you can't tell. It's got an electromagnet in there that's doing all the ratcheting instead of the mechanical ratchet that this one has. So if you use it a lot at home where noise of the scrolling doesn't matter to you, me when I was at work and doing that, scrolling around documents in a cubicle setting at work, it was just, I kind of hated being that guy with the really loud mouse flicking between things, constantly doing that in a quiet cubicle setting. So I didn't love that feature up here. I'd always try to like move it quietly, or if I was doing a lot of scrolling, I would unlock it to try to be quieter. So that was the real downside to this one that I didn't like. And this one solves it. So now when I was working in a cubicle space, now I'm working from home, but when I was there, I loved that this one was so silent. Also, since it's an electromagnet controlling this, it is adjustable on how tough that clutch is in there. So you can change it to, it has to be a really hard flick for it to unlock and freely scroll, or you can make it so it's very soft. A light flick will make it unlock, freely scroll, and then lock back down again. But beyond the scrolling wheel, I really like the MX2 for design-wise for my hand. So I have pretty large hands. I'm a large 6'2" guy. So I have big hands that really envelop this mouse, and I love it. I love how well it fits in my hand, how much it flares out at the bottom here. It really engulfs my hand, and it fits really well. And I like that feel. MX3, on the other hand, it doesn't feel as good in the hand. It doesn't flare quite as much on the sides. And so if you had probably more of a reasonable sized hand, this would fit great. For me, I still like it, just not as much. Another big design change was on the side here, where on the MX2, the buttons were behind the thumb scroll, and here the buttons are below. These buttons are easier to get to now, and it makes it harder to get to the scroll wheel. It's not that much harder, it's just slightly harder. Whereas here, easy to get to the thumb scroll wheel, harder to get to these buttons, and a bit harder to differentiate them. Especially if you're playing games or something, you just reach back and press a button here. It's easy to press both at the same time. Here, it's very easy to know which one you're pressing, the forward, back one. Easy to do. The thumb button, so they do both have a thumb button down in this part, and they're both, I would say, equally easy to press. Very easy to press, and you flick, and you can control it in their software to control what that does. I use it to move windows around. If I select a window, press the button and flick it to the right, it will auto lock it to the right side of the page, or the same, I can auto lock to the left or up or down, which is super great for productivity. I always have a bunch of different windows open, and so being able to move them around quickly has been amazing. Another interesting design choice is they changed it from 3 LED lights. There's 3 LED lights, and that shows you how much battery you have left. It's only 3, so it's not going to give you very great precision there. You only know if you're in fully charged or you've used a third or 2/3. Whereas the MX3 only has a single battery that changes colors, and I'm colorblind. So switching from red to green, I can barely tell the difference. My fiance will point out, hey, it's looking red right now. And I'm like, oh, I guess it is. I hadn't noticed it because it's a slight change in color from red to green, which for me is barely any change at all. Huge downgrade, but it charges quickly and you can still use it while it charges. So it's not a big deal. I always keep a USB-C cable around to charge it. It's just the design of 1 light versus 3 lights is a downgrade in my book. And on to charging it. The new one is USB-C versus the old one being micro USB. And this micro USB is kind of difficult to get the plug in there with how this thing is around it. I always feel like I'm about to damage it with how hard it is to get the micro USB in there. It's just not a good plug. The micro USB cable needs to be done away with and put out of its misery. USB-C is the future. Everything needs a USB-C plug. Or USB mini. Skip micro, either use a USB mini or USB-C. Those are, I think, the only 2 options moving forward for technology companies if they're listening right now. Onto the bottom, they both have 4 pads on the bottom. The MX3 came with, I think, worse pads than the MX2. MX2 slides really well. MX3, on the other hand, the stock pads that came on here, they didn't slide very well. Like, it was really hard to get the mouse to slide around since the pads are slightly smaller than they were on the MX2. So I did have to buy these third-party Teflon pads off Amazon. I'll put a link in this description down below. And I think these make the mouse so much better. Initially, it wouldn't slide around on my mouse pad. I am using a good mouse pad. Like, it should be able to slide very easily, but the stock pads just didn't slide around. So I do think that was another design downgrade that they chose moving forward to the MX3. But if you put third-party quality pads on here, it makes it so much better and it slides just as well now. So those are all the differences and nitpicking I have for these mice. They're both amazing mice. Also, don't buy them full price. Try to find a discount on them. They run sales on these all the time. But if you're using them for productivity at all, I would recommend these so highly over a normal mouse. This is my gaming mouse. This is my G403. It's a G403 mouse. Works great for games. It's very lightweight. But there's no thumb scroll wheel. That's the big part of this mouse. The thumb scroll wheel levels up your productivity. For video editing, to be able to move the video back and forth sideways with just a flick of your thumb, or you're in a Word document scrolling around side to side, or Excel if you use that very much. I didn't know I would like it as much as I did until I got it, and now it's hard to work without one. But that about wraps it up. Those are my comparisons between the MX2 and MX3 from Logitech. But if you do have any more questions about either of these mice, let me know in the comments down below. I do try to answer every single comment that I've given. And while you're down there, if you would, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps this channel out with the YouTube algorithm. But anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day out there, and I'll see you on the next video. Goat Toaster out.